Hi, I'm Jeff from AskJeffWilliams.com. Today we're going to pull a radiator out of 96 Ford Explorer with a 5-liter in it. Now, most of you might think, Jeff, how hard is it to pull a radiator? Well, trust me, until you've done one on one of these, it's a little trickier than you might think. Come on, let's take a look. On the Ford Explorers, you've got a fan clutch, sandwiching the radiator in between the condenser. In order to get it out, you've got to pull the fan clutch. Sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not. I'll show you how. Okay, now before you remove the fan clutch, you're going to need a set of fan clutch tools. The reason why is because the fan clutch is threaded on to the water pump pulley. And unless you have one of these, you're never going to get it off, trust me. The way it works is like this. The larger tool goes around the outside of the bolts, while the large wrench clamps onto that just like that. And that way, when I grab a hold of that large nut on the end, I can twist it and it comes right off. And that way, it'll thread clean off back and we can have more room to get this shroud off. So let's give it a shot. Okay, now the trick on these radiators on these Fords is the condenser is attached to the front of the radiator by these little clips right here. And then on the other side, another clip with a bolt. Take the bolt out first and slowly slide the condenser to your right until you clear these little clips. If you do everything right, the radiator should come out just this easy. Alright, now when you get your new radiator, a lot of times the aftermarket companies will include all the pieces you need so it'll come together nice and smooth. Now remember, when you're putting on the transmission cooling line adapters, to put Teflon around the threads. It keeps them from leaking. Don't over tighten them because remember, that's only plastic. Also, another thing to remember is if you're going to go this far with the entire works, might as well invest in some new upper and lower radiator lines and hose clamps. Last thing you need is one of these things coming apart after you just got done putting a new radiator in. So let's go ahead and put this guy in, shall we? Okay, now we got our radiator in, and I'm tightening up the cooling lines that go to the transmission. Now remember, when you're tightening these lines, these adapters are going to push these cooling lines out another 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. So make sure you have enough play between your serpentine belt and your compressor. And remember, always have another wrench on there as you're tightening down your cooling lines, because the last thing you want to do is break that off in there. So next we're going to put in our fan shroud and our cooling fan with the fan clutch. And then we're going to put water in this thing and see if it'll work. So let's give it a shot. Okay. Alright, we got our new radiator hoses in, upper and lower. We got our transmission cooling lines on. We got the remote transmission cooler lines, don't forget those, on the bottom. Now, here's a little thing that most people miss. A lot of people like to put these aftermarket mass airflow sensors on, and they're great because you can put a K&N filter on here. The downside is if you don't get the right sleeve adapter, then you get a little pinch right here in the plastic. Now the problem with this is that a lot of the air is bypassing the mass airflow sensor. You don't want to do that because the onboard computer is relying on this sensor telling it how much air in CFM is actually passing through into the intake. So you want to make sure that you don't have any gaps or any type of breaks along this entire line before the mass airflow. Now today we're going to be putting in 50-50. Now I recommend this unless you like mixing your own antifreeze. Now I'll explain why that's important. When you mix antifreeze, you must use distilled water. Now a lot of companies will void the warranty if you don't. The reason why primarily is because the alkalis in the water will deposit inside the radiator and thus cutting down on the efficiency. So it's best to go out and buy a 50-50 mix, and that's what we did. And they're usually cheaper too, so That's what we're going to do. Okay, we've got our negative battery connection put back together. We got everything reattached, and now we're going to fire it up to see if it works. All right, go ahead and hit it. I love that sound. All right, cut it off. All right, now what you're going to want to do at this point is you're going to test drive the vehicle and you're going to check for leaks, because the leaks are going to be more evident when the engine's at the temperature because it's under pressure. If there's no leaks, you're good to go. Now, if you've had any questions about anything you've seen today or previous blogs, don't forget to leave me a comment. And remember to always consult your repair manual if you do have questions. Until next time, I'm Jeff Williams, and this has been AskJeffWilliams.com. See ya.